to match for match, but then you've got the Urshifu with the Scarf that already puts itself above that track.
Okay.
So,
Elf und Glimmora.
we'll answer that question later. We're getting into the match.
Oh, getting into the match indeed, and like you correctly pointed out there, Lee, we do have the Tornadus and the Urshifu being such a prominent
Danke für den Resub. Das ist appreciated, Dankeschön.
Team at the moment. So really good call out there from Wolf versus the Glimmora and Whimsicott. So you've immediately got some really good offensive pressure coming out of the Glimmora. It does, of course, have the potential of changing, of terrestrializing into grass, so it may force a U-turn play from the Urshifu, so something that Wolf is going to really have to take into consideration.
Yeah, and it has nice access to those sludge bombs, to the earth powers. You can fire into that Urshifu here and really start doing some big damage, especially if you do go for
das heißt, Meteor Beam wird kommen
here, just the tailwind coming out from that Whimsicott and the Meteor Beam
Tornadus, und Tornadus wird sterben, aber Glimmora wird auch sterben.
Allowing the Glimmora to get ahead and get that speed advantage, special attack boost, and the Meteor Beam does connect. This is same bonus, ladies and gents, but it's
Auf
not
Urshifu?
due to the typing resistance. They're
Weil er sasht es.
It doesn't even need to connect with the third hit there. It will be picking up a KO, but most importantly, the toxic debris will now have 2 sets of layers on the field. So any grounded
Ist ja für
Pokémon
Bleakwood Stormgang oder
from
für Rain?
poison typing will have to be wary unless there's another poison type.
Könnt gerne rein in die Wette, Chat.
It does have that poison type, maybe lurking in the back. We'll have to wait and see, but the Amoonguss could be an option here to come in and just soak up those toxic spikes to get that away. We're going to see Blickwind Storm into the Whimsicott, not quite enough to take it down, activating that Focus Sash. So, going to stick around for at least one more time.
Aber er hat den Blickwind gehittet. Und den Speed Drop.
Oh, there's actually a speed drop on that Whimsicott as well.
Ich glaube, das ist
Most likely not
okay.
going to come into play because Whimsicott is
Wobei, wenn Wolfe gleich Tailwind
rausholt.
rausholt.
So Sebastian is likely going to want to try to bring in a sweeper of sorts. And now that we know that Wolf's
Sieht gerade nicht so gut aus, Markus.
surging shots from Urshifu, it means that Terrakion really needs to take that into
Sieht gerade nicht so gut aus.
consideration and likely have to try to exhaust its terrestrialization in order to cover and resist it with the grass type. But no,
Okay,
we actually
Farigiraf.
have the Farigiraf.
Yeah, it's probably a better option to bring in right now, I think, instead of the Terrakion. Like you say, it would be awkward. You're kind of having to commit that terrestrialization in front of this Urshifu, knowing what it was locked into.
Kannst du Tornadus
So
Tailwind
to try and get
einsetzen
around that
gegen
circumvent a
Farigiraf?
little bit. The Farigiraf feels like a good option here. Going to be
Ja,
able to
oder?
soak up attacks
Also,
on both sides of the field pretty easily.
Das hat schon
and
normal
potentially
Prio, ne?
Maybe even just pick up a knockout on that Urshifu, or at least pressure if the Amoonguss is the slot that is going to come in for that Urshifu in this situation.
Also,
And I do
erhöhte
quite like the
Prio.
Farigiraf coming here, sort of adds to the dual speed mode that Sebastian does have available to himself in case there was a tailwind setup from Wolf's
den
side.
Water.
But we do have the terrestrialization now on the Urshifu. It will be the Water Terror, and we're looking to get very offensive here.
Yeah, it's going to be boosting that attack even further and boosted further by the rain from this tornado, setting up the rain that'll last for 5 turns. A dazzling gleam coming out from the Whimsicott, not enough to pick up
Terra.
the Urshifu.
Aber Hyper Voice,
following up, picking up a
das ist ein
huge
ganz schön
kill
schnelles
on the
Farigiraf,
before
kann
it
es
is
sein?
able to attack.
That is such a speedy Farigiraf.
Das ist ein ganz schön schnelles Farigiraf.
Anticipating the
Habt ihr
Joy
Wolfe
Star
gesehen?
Urshifu being outsped by this Farigiraf. So really nice touch there, as of course
Damn.
get that a special attack boost due to the throat spray.
Yeah, it's a really
Ay,
unfortunate there
ay, ay,
for Wolf losing the terrestrialization now, but such a surprise from Sebi doing so well, training that
Alles
Farigiraf,
geplant
not
hat, denn
like
das
he would
Farigiraf
expect it to
ist
be, and really
scheinbar
catching
ein sehr
Wolf off guard
offensives.
with that
Ich meine, es hat
big
Throat
hyper
Spray,
voice,
aber
and then at the same time activating that throat spray, giving it a +1 to its
das
special
ist
attack,
bewusstes
becoming a real
Tailwind
threat going
Farigiraf.
forward.
Der
The Amoonguss
soll
coming in now
echt
for
böllern
Wolf,
wahrscheinlich.
allowing him a little bit more room to adjust.
And having Psyshock at +1 of its special attack is such a great utility. Wolf doesn't have terrestrialization left, but the Fate is will so much damage coming out from this Hyper Voice.
Okay, aber es killt nicht.
On the Amoonguss, it does get rid of the Tornadus, but it
Boah, wäre
does
smarter
allow the
gewesen,
Farigiraf
maybe
to now be susceptible to
den
a
bewusst
likely spore
rauszunehmen?
into the slot.
Yeah, that's the big question here. The Amoonguss surviving,
citrus.
getting that citrus berry, which is so good, and the spore coming out now
Spore ist halt
into that
natürlich,
Farigiraf. Gonna put it to sleep and give Wolf a little bit of
not
room to
bad.
breathe here, because this Farigiraf
Tailwind war
is
aktiv, ja,
becoming such a
ja,
threat
ja.
very, very quickly.
And I think Sebastian did take into consideration a potential
gespannt, was,
Incineroar
Sebastian noch in the
lurking
back hat.
and may have not felt confident going for the Psyshock focus into the slot. Hence why
Special attack, Flutter main, by the way.
Of a sort of boosted hyper voice, but we did see the special attack boost via the boost energy on the Flutter main.
Yeah, so we'll be hitting it a lot harder, of course, having to rely on the Dazzling Gleam to really do that spread damage.
Keiner von uns kennt ihn. Der kam einfach dorthin und denkt sich, ja Mann.
You don't really want your Flutter main taking any of those, but that's what we're going to see. Is going to be going into the Flutter main, lowering that special defense by 2 stages, meaning if this Ferograph can wake up after this turn, it will be doing a lot of damage.
It will indeed, but prior to that, the Whimsicott will be going down. So this is quite crucial and dependent on what the final Pokemon is on Sebastian's side.
Aber ich glaube, Tailwind
will be targeting down the Ferograph, not quite enough to pick up the KO.
Ja, Tailwind geht jetzt aus. Was hat er noch in the bag?
Dual speed control mode of a team that Sebastian would have really liked having the Trick Room set up.
Yeah, I think if you could have potentially set the Trick Room up
der Rain ist halt echt nervig. Die Frage ist, ist Snarl der Play? Er ist halt -2, ne? Auf beiden. Er muss, glaube ich, schon für Heatwave gehen, ne?
He's going to be able to take advantage of the Beads of Ruin that's come onto the field from the Chi-Yu. Going to be able to knock out the Ferograph pretty easily with the Dazzling Gleam based on the previous damage.
Rain ist schon kacke. Aber es sind halt beide durch Fake Tears auf -2 Special Death. Das wird jetzt noch ein bisschen wild. Ich weiß ja nicht, ob Snarl Amoongus killt.
But this is quite crucial right now. The Flutter main is at -2 of its special defense.
Okay, noch Terra.
Ruin that's on the field. Choice specs boosted.
Der würde jetzt einen Heatwave rausböllern. Okay, Terra Grass. Warte, Terra Grass ist doch überdumm. Warum? Achso, wegen Spore. Aber er hat Sludge-Bomb gedrückt.
But it's quite crucial right now because it depends on whether
there is a connect from the oh my god, nein! Oh my god! Oh my god!
What a ferocious end to this game, and Wolf looking like he was on the back foot there in the losing position.
Oh, okay.
Getting that sludge bomb off into the Chi-Yu.
What a champ difference.
Ich
glaube, es wäre Heatwave gewesen. Ich meine, Heatwave hätte auch gemisst. Hätte Snarl gekillt.
Fast and furious game that was. It really was. There was a lot of tailwind situations.
Heatwave hat, glaube ich, beide gekillt. Weiß ich nicht im Rain. Snarl hätte gekillt. Das ist best of 3. Snarl hat 95 Genauigkeit, oder?
Completely wild, because in that situation I was thinking, you've got the tailwind up, but with the Ferograph having the Trick Room, you feel, is it going to be able to outspeed in this position?
Right.
Ja. Sebastian hält sicher die Überraschung auf seiner Seite.
Not only us off guard, but I think Wolf off guard as well. Really, you know, probably wouldn't commit to that terrestrialization in those normal circumstances. Bit unfortunate for Sebi, really didn't get the most value out of the Glamora. Got some nice damage on.
Nee, der wäre ja auf -1 gegangen durch Standpaukstorme. Ich glaube, dann hätte Dazzling ihn danach nicht gekillt. Anhand vom Damage würde ich sagen, auf -1 hätte der den nicht gekillt. Außer wenn er halt crittet.
You want to remove it from the field and then it frees up some of your other Pokemon to come in to do the work.
I might not even change up that much, if I'm completely honest. There could be a case of...
Ja, wahrscheinlich, Leute.
I'm not sure the Flutter main itself, straight off the bat, but then you're sort of susceptible to things, and yes, there is a Chi-Yu with a Terra-type grass, but it ends up being a mind game of whether there's a U-turn or a
focus. Ich bin gespannt.
Yeah, that's a really good point, I think. Yeah, and you're also committing to that terrestrialization very early on in the match, and when everything's on the line here for Sebi, he needs to go into this next game to tie it up. He needs a win here to take it to a game 3 to keep his EUIC dreams alive. So, really committing to something that could be viewed as a little bit careless, potentially based on probably a 50-50. Something you want to try and avoid. It's very difficult, but here we go, Costa, getting into this game 2, round 9 in the EUIC 2024 Championships.
Here we
go.
This will be a very critical game here. Tornado Urshifu, same leads from Wolf's side, but we do have a change up over on Sebastian's side, being the Farigiraf. It is well placed to be able to at least deal very respectable neutral damage.
Ich glaube, wir sehen Rain Dance, Searching Strikes in Farigiraf, ne?
Yeah, that's the thing. If the Trick Room goes up here, you're expecting maybe a Tailwind from the Whimsicott. Do you go for Tailwind yourself with the Tornadus? I think Wolf's got an easy turn where he could potentially go for the Rain Dance, Terastallize again, and go for that Searching Strikes. Whatever you're going to
okay, check ich. That
kind of bolstered attacking option. So, but if you do allow it could be detrimental. Maybe this is why we.
Dieses Farigiraf macht gar nichts.
As Fluttermane does switch in, and we do know, of course, it has that booster energy. It will most likely
gar nichts hat der Kollege.
To the speed heightening, but no, it's actually, of course, it is a special.
Na klar, Kaminari.
So. Wanting to try to commit in this scenario,
kann mich immer gerne Timo nennen.
Because Sebastian really needs to get this turn 1 call right if he wants to try to push this game 3 potential.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down really to this turn, how it plays out. We are seeing Wolf start off with the Terastallization on Tornadus here. The Dazzling Gleam fired out, no Tailwind from the Whimsicott, doing some respectable damage to both targets.
Misst 11 Huhn. Eieiei. Für was geht Farigiraf? Geht für Färbervoice, ja.
Damage dealt there, Focus Sash broken. We do
have
the
halt crazy.
Focus here, so just wanted to guarantee some sort of damage, maybe pick up the KO if possible into the Urshifu. However, having the double ghost interaction there with the Hyper Voice is such a nice play.
That's crazy.
Yeah, such a great play from Wolf. I think we need to talk about it a bit, but because of that Hyper Voice, proccing the Throat Spray, you want to avoid that great Terastallization from the Tornadus. You kind of realize after it starts, you're like, the Hyper Voice, and it's exactly what happens. Tailwind now coming out from the Whimsicott, going to try and get some speed advantage, but matched by Wolf's Tornadus as well.
Well done. This is the sort of scenario that Wolf was trying to hope towards in order to at least bring stability and a stalemate in terms of speed control. As Psyshock will be targeting down the Fluttermane and just barely misses the KO. Really good damage from this Fluttermane being able to now both of Sebi's Pokemon down to orange.
Yeah, and that's pretty huge. You know, I think having both ghosts on the field, you put this Farigiraf in a position where it is locked in a way where it can't get that special attack boost. So as long as these ghosts are on the field, you can't utilize that high really get the maximum benefit from this Pokemon. We are just seeing the Fluttermane protect, along with that Farigiraf protect on Sebi's side of the field, and the Whimsicott going to fire off a
Get it for Rain Dance or for
Instant
Bleak Wind?
Of course, the Tornadus does somehow go down here. Wolf always has that option of bringing the Urshifu Choice Scarf straight into the fray, but the Bleak Windstorm does connect this time round. It does, of course, pick up the KO onto the Whimsicott. So at least Sebi will have a Pokemon he could bring in right now in order to capitalize off of this, but it's going to have to be...
Ja, ich sehe, was du meinst, Markus. Ich sagte, er hätte da ein bisschen Spice reinbringen müssen.
And that seems to be its own.
Okay, da kommt sein eigenes Fluttermane rein.
Fluttermane is one
Und
of
es
the most
ist
used
Speed
Pokemon.
Boost.
Here we are seeing that booster energy activating on the Fluttermane and boosting the
so.
speed on this Fluttermane. So meaning
das heißt, Fluttermane kann hier easy
out of both his and Wolf. So I think you've got the advantage here. Both Tailwinds are set up in this position.
Und Farigiraf ist gegen die anderen beiden Pokémon echt big.
On Wolf's side of the field, or go for a Dazzling Gleam here and potentially pick up a double knockout if nothing switches or protects.
I think what you have to be worried about is an Amoonguss switching here, but having the potential of the Psyshock available on your side of the field means that this isn't really safe to actually switch in
Wenn
here.
Nicht
and it's going to be a
protected.
tough decision for Wolf to take into consideration.
And neither's that Urshifu as well. That is not going to want to switch in on a Dazzling Gleam or a Psyshock. So you're pinned really. If you want to make a switch, you've got to go for the Amoonguss and hope that Sebi doesn't get that slot right.
Sebastian ist noch gar nicht in so einer schlechten Position.
It turns out it is going to be the switch up. Amoonguss does come in, but does Sebi target down correctly here and try to get that guaranteed sort of scenario playing out to himself as we have the Terastallization over on Sebi's side.
And it is going to be the Fluttermane going for that Fairy Terror type, boosting those Fairy type attacks, going into this next turn. Going to be enough to potentially pick up a knockout on that Tornadus, and if it does, it leaves the Amoonguss open for a Psyshock.
It does, however, the Protect does come out. It means Tornadus is trying to allow itself room to get another Tailwind set up to
Hat der Psyshock in den Hutsaslot gedrückt, ist jetzt die Frage.
Whimsicott has been felled, but Amoonguss taking that incredibly well, which is naturally expected, but
was?
in order to allow this Farigiraf more room to have even more damage output.
Der hat Hyper Voice gedrückt.
That is a very brave play, but I think in these situations in this setting,
das ist überbroken.
You need to take these brave decisions. The Hyper Voice risky in front of two Ghost-type Pokemon, but pretty sure that Wolf would have to switch out in that scenario.
Also ja, safe, aber aber trotzdem ist, also es ist cool. Most Road Play, save.
Pretty freely now. Anything that switches in there is going to take huge damage. Yes, you can get.
Also hätte mit Gleam halt den Double Kill geholt. Und deswegen hat der Hyper Voice gedrückt, falls er rauswechselt. Und Wolfe hat halt rausgewechselt. Genau. Und jetzt ist Verrigraf auf Plus 1. Mein beste Play, aber ist cool. Okay, er muss Tornadus rauswechseln, um Tailwind halt in the back zu haben. Muss er.
But very low health, very susceptible to going down here. The Amoonguss not wanting to go down freely, protecting this turn, going to avoid any damage coming out. The Dazzling Gleam from Sebby's Flutterman going to be probably enough to pick up the knockout onto Wolves.
But I'm quite curious, there may even be a play here for Sebby to try to go for Trick Room, but surely you can't when you're facing an Amoonguss, even if there's a Choice Scarf in the back and Tornado. So this sort of forces a lot of pressure onto Sebby's final Pokemon in order to dispatch of the Urshifu in one way. And we know that that's not exactly a real scenario for himself. Sure, the Fluttermane does have speed advantage, but now the Tornadus is going to be able to get the Tailwind set up and allow the Urshifu to potentially sweep up the remainder of the game.
Yeah, and it's going to be in a really good position. Like you say, it comes down to what Sebby's last Pokemon is here.
The Tailwind spawn to Fluttermane.
This Tailwind this turn, the Amoonguss has just protected. Do you go for another protect here to try and avoid the knockout? It could be an option. You go Tailwind, protect.
Außer Wolfe sieht jetzt irgendwas, was ich nicht sehe.
Way better position with
Protect?
Urshifu, but if you don't get the protect off, you're really looking, like you mentioned, the Urshifu to come in under these Tailwind conditions to really clean up potentially 3 Pokemon.
There could even be a case for the Tornadoes to go for Protect in order to allow itself that room to have Urshifu immediately.
Kann ich einfach Dazzling Psyshock killt doch
scenario for Sebastian, as we do see Dazzling Gleam once again being dispatched by this Fluttermane. It will be followed up by likely a Psyshock. No reason not to go for it in order to guarantee a KO to the Amoonguss, as the Tornadus was already guaranteed.
Yeah, really good call there. The Protect on the Tornadus, probably the best play possible here because you want that offensive threat next to the Tornadus when you get that Tailwind set up, rather than
wahrscheinlich schon, ne?
Now, losing potentially both of these Pokemon and everything, then being on the Urshifu's shoulders. At least if you do it this way,
aber guck mal,
you're able to pick things off as you go. And
Urshifu nimmt jetzt einen raus.
Can stick around a little bit longer,
und in der Theorie können doch sowohl Fluttermane als auch Verrigraf hier Urshifu einfach rausnehmen.
And this is quite nice as to the previous play of having the Throat Spray enabled
Oder
from the
nicht.
Verrigraf, because now at least you can guarantee even more damage output. But the Hyper Voice isn't as easy to go for.
Und dann steht ja nur noch Tornadus.
We do see the Tailwind now sit up. The Urshifu is going to be going first. It is going for the Surging Strike. It goes for 1 critical hit. 2 critical
hits.
Lebt ihn.
Is it going to be enough? Oh, it may not even be.
Der lebt ihn sogar. Ja, ist GG.
This Fluttermane
ist
the room to get that damage.
Das ist GG.
It moves. It goes for the Moonblast. It will be focusing on
ist ein sehr bulky Fluttermane.
1-1. It looks like we're having a game 3 lead.
That's a huge survival here from
the
Flutterman, being able to take that Surging Strike.
Trick Room.
Not
will's richtig wissen.
A Trick Room from the Vergraf. Now the Amoonguss has left the field. It's a perfect setting, counteracting that Tailwind and locking this game up for Sebby in style, taking it, like you say, to a game 3.
Lovely little piece of tech right there. It's sort of the Vergraf opting as an anti-Tailwind mode, per se, for any sort of Tailwind mirrors.
Yeah, and the only thing really holding Sebby back from being able to do that earlier in the game was that Amoonguss picking up the final knockout onto the
Also ich sag mal so, Dortmund habe ich einige mit meinen Surging Strikes auch gekillt. Auch ohne Rain. Wie stark Surging Strikes? Surging Strikes ist schon 25, 3 Hits und alle sind Crits. Also ist schon big eigentlich, aber Fluttermane hat echt nicht so viel Crit-Stat. Aber die spielen alle echt gut Bulk dafür.
Sort of left with that advantage of the speed control, and Wolf
okay, meint's ernst. Oh nein.
The Tailwind, but it was from the point that the Fluttermane was such an obstacle, having that booster energy in the speed versus Wolf's own.
Alle Crits crazy, ja, gerade in so einer Meta, wo halt so viel Intimidate und sowas ist.
And like you said, Wolf did really well to mitigate the attack damage from the
sind halt only Crits halt übelst cool. Let's go, Richard.
The first thing Sebby's going to want to do is go for that Hyper Voice. Well, I'm going to trust the switch into my Fluttermane, get a free switch here, and I'm going to get away with it. And then from there, it looked like he had complete control of the match. Sebby then really playing very well with the tools that he had kind of at his disposal, utilizing the Flutter Mane, maybe identifying, saying, yeah, your Flutter Mane's doing a really good job. I'm going to utilize my Flutter Mane because I've got the booster energy. I can also get the Tailwind up, but I'm going to have an additional speed boost, which is going to give you a hard time.
Glaube ich auch, Ace, ja.
The surging strikes though was the biggest thing because you expect in those situations, especially if you've got the speed boost with that booster
wir wissen
energy.
nicht mal, was Sebastian da als letztes Mon stehen hatte.
But contrary to belief,
vielleicht hat da noch so ein Ass im Ärmel in the bag.
The Flutter Mane surviving and getting that crucial knockout onto the Urshifu.
It really was.
Ja, ist noch gar kein Ergebnis. Sebastian spielt es wirklich gut, ja. Also dafür, dass der da gerade sitzt, okay, und seinen Win-in spielt und gegen fucking Wolfe Glick spielt, spielt er das wirklich gut.
The fact that Flutter Mane survived that
spielt er das wirklich, wirklich gut.
As to how well trained in bulk that Flutter Mane was.
Yeah,
das ist crazy.
Completely, and I think really throws a spanner in the works
for
both players here. Going into
wahrscheinlich
game
kennt der
3,
Wolfe nicht mal da, ich denke schon.
go down the same game plan as you did.
Und niemand, was von ihm gehört hat, ja. Das ist so crazy. Niemand kennt den, nein, niemand kennt ihn.
This is gonna be the final match.
Oh!
Day one, and what do you know?
Oh!
Terrakion and a Whimsicott over on Sebi's side versus the
Wait!
and Tornadus over on Wolf. So there's a lot of
das Ding ist, wird halt Tailwind und versuchen mit Flutter Terrakion rauszunehmen.
Yeah, the Terrakion switch up from Sebi here puts a lot of offensive pressure on, especially with that beat up and rock slide combination there. The Tornado is going to be threatened by that. Of course, the Flutter Mane on Wolf's side really well positioned here because the Tailwind plus a Dazzling Gleam or a Moonblast probably be enough to take down that Terrakion. It's going to have to go for that Terastallization, but it looks like that is exactly what we're going to see.
Yeah, it's sort of forced in the scenario so well identified that it is going to be opting for that grass Terastallization. Wolf is going to really have to hope if he tries to go in on the full offensive side of things, it can pick up a KO on the Terrakion.
Yeah,
kann beat up Rock Slide hier
drücken? Here we're going to see a Tailwind first from this Tornadus, and then it's going to be followed up by a Dazzling Gleam. No Tailwind from the Whimsicott here. It looks like
der trifft Dazzling
Gleam
und Rock Slide.
And the Terrakion left to go
und der hittet.
Big Rock Slide here, taking down that
Boah, beat up Rock Slide hätte ich so gefühlt.
Hä?
Dann hätte er beide getötet. Aber bei Dings hat noch gelebt, ne? Warte, jetzt drückt er... Damn! Jetzt drückt er Tailwind. Ja, Boros hätte gelebt, ja, wegen dem Sash. Der hätte dann vielleicht noch irgendwelche Schöne... Aber was macht Boros dann? Der macht ja dann nichts mehr. Also ich glaube, Beat Up Rockslide hätte ich cooler gefunden. Flutter Mane Kill into Boros auf Sash. Und dann Tailwind und noch ein Rock Slide. Aber hätte Wolfe Moonblast into Terrakion gedrückt, plus Beat Up wäre Terrakion gestorben. Er bleibt einfach drin. Er gibt keinen Fix. Rock Slide. Flinch. Ja, meint er es. Scarf. Okay. Okay. Das Ding ist, Wolfe hat halt noch die Terra und Sebastian jetzt nicht mehr. Das ist die Sache.
Yeah, the Amoonguss coming back.
Was hat Sebastian da in the bag?
Really nice play here from Wolf, taking advantage of the tailwind he has in effect. Sebi trying to keep pace with that tailwind, of course, but for the troubles of losing the Whimsicott and the Terrakion here, so going down in numbers, down to the last two Pokemon.
Das Ding ist, wie kriegt der Amoonguss weg, wenn da halt safe Farigiraf? Farigiraf, Flutter Mane wäre, glaube ich, am besten.
The only speed control that you've got if you are Sebi is going to be that Trick Room, but the Amoonguss is always the threat here, the problem. But you've got that GU coming onto the field now that breeds of Ruin alongside that Farigiraf that has the ability to activate that Throat Spray. And not only that, pressure the Amoonguss as well because it has got the size shock, of course. You've got to remember that. There is no safe switch for that Amoonguss this turn. If it goes out, the Urshifu is going to come in. The Amoonguss does have the ability to Terastallize though, so it does have that at its disposal.
Und er kann sich mit
pretty good in this situation.
Urshifu einfach Terra Water holen. Das sieht schlecht aus, glaube ich, für Sebastian. Weil der Flutter Mane nicht hat. Urshifu gewinnt keiner, ja, glaube ich auch.
Sebastian may have to even try to rely on, if he can pick up a KO on the Amoonguss and get Trick Room set up, he should be able to run this game through.
Yeah, but that's the problem. I think Wolf identifying that, going for the Moonblast and that Protect onto the Amoonguss. Not quite enough to pick up the Chi-Yu. It goes all in on the Amoonguss, but blocked by that Protect here, leaving the Farigga have to go for the Trick Room.
There it is.
Nee, ist Jauber. Der hätte... Ich check den Play, aber er hätte Amoonguss killen müssen. Aber Amoonguss, ja, es ist Jauber. Das ist vorbei. Ja, das Ding ist, ich verstehe seinen Play schon. Wenn er den overheatet und killt und dann Trick Room rausbekommt, ist er eine sehr gute Position. Aber so war einfach Protect.
Sebis is still going to be attacked, even though the Trick Room's up.
Oder was habe ich gesagt?
I think that is a very likely situation too.
Aber das war's.
We do have the final terrestrialization reveal being the Water Terror on the Amoonguss. Just wanting to make
aber trotzdem cool.
No longer susceptible to any sort of
ja, safe, Scum, safe.
Yeah,
Aspects to you, yeah.
Protect it well if it needs protecting at all, because the Sludge Bomb picks up a big knockout into that Chi-Yu.
Yeah, it really does, and it sort of allows the scenario where at least you're gonna have the Flutter Mane going down now, but you have the redirection available on this Amoonguss, so I wouldn't be completely surprised.
Naja, er hätte mit Overheat Amoonguss gekillt.
Via the Hyper Voice in the following turn, but the problem is the Amoonguss already locks this game down.
Und Trick Room eingesetzt, dann hätte er Next Turn mit Overheat Flutter wahrscheinlich gekillt. Der war ja schon sehr low. Auch auf -2, aber das sollte reichen. Und mit Psyshock wäre er auf Urshifu gegangen. Und einen Surging Strikes hätte der gelebt. Deswegen. Ich verstehe den Play, es war sein einziger Win-Con. Aber so ist hier Feierabend. Jetzt müssen wir noch auf unsere Freunde hoffen.
Will it be the Amoonguss picking up the knockout with the Sludge Bomb, or will it be that Urshifu with the Surging Strikes? Unfortunate for Sebi, he is in the position here. The Tailwind ending for him now, but not in the best spot. When the Amoonguss is still on the field, the Trick Room was just not the favorable play, but we aren't seeing the Amoonguss go for an attack, going for a Rage Powder instead, protecting that Urshifu.
It is, and this is going to be going ahead
and
spelling the end of our day one here in the EUIC. Surging
ich glaube, da wollte er ein bisschen zu viel.
Gets the job done, and we got Wolfe Glick going into day 2.
Absolutely incredible game for us to cap off.
Aber trotzdem cool.